Hi everybody. Today's tip for happiness is live with regret. Maybe in some misguided attempt to help us feel happier, our society today has started teaching us to try to live without regret. But regret, by definition, is remorse for an act or a failure to act that has taken us to a place that is unpleasant or undesirable. So if we follow the dictates of society, does that mean we should tell the kid who bullies everybody else on the playground that it's okay and he should not feel bad about it? In a relationship, is it healthy if after an argument, neither side can admit to being wrong or to being sorry? Also, just as a side note, somebody who feels no remorse is called a sociopath. There are three kinds of regrets we can experience. We can regret something we do, we can regret something we fail to do, and we can regret something that's outside of our control. Justin Bieber sang, "I know you know that I made those mistakes maybe once or twice. By once or twice, I mean maybe a couple of 100 times." This may be the most common kind of regret. If we, in the heat of the moment, say something, sometimes immediately after the words leave our mouths, we realize, I just crossed the line. After walking across a hot bed of coals, we might decide it's time to rewrite our bucket list. We also experience regret over things we don't do that we believe we should have. For example, there's a stock and you know the thing is going to jump in price. And right now it doesn't cost very much to buy shares of it. Obviously, some people would have the thought, but if I buy that, what happens when it tanks worse than a Hillary Clinton pun at a presidential debate? But there's the reverse of that too, which is, if I don't buy it now, what happens when that thing gets huge? Your own child comes up to you and asks you about sex, which obviously is completely and totally a comfortable conversation to have, especially at the dinner table all across the world. But you know they're going to find out about it one way or the other. Do you really want to beat your kid next door to tell your child how things work? The third type of regret doesn't actually make sense, but we experience it anyway. We have regret over things that are outside of our control. Have you ever been late and missed a flight at the airport by just a few minutes? For me, 3 minutes. Traffic was more bumper to bumper than expected because there was an accident up ahead caused by an oil spill from a truck that had to slam on his brakes because the guy driving in front of him was distracted by his child in the backseat who was complaining about Cheerios being spilled all over the floor. And we blame ourselves for these too. Son of some chips. If I would have left 10 minutes earlier, I totally would have made that flight. But the fact of the matter is, we can't control traffic. We can't predict the future. Recently, studies have converged on this idea that opportunity breeds regret. In other words, the larger the perceived opportunity here, the larger the regret potentially attached to that is here. For example, if that stock you wanted had been Microsoft and it were March 13th, 1986, your regret for not buying that you experience today would be a lot bigger than some maybe minor regret you experience for not buying McDonald's stock on March 14th of this year and selling that on May 10th, which yielded a whole $8 per share. By the way, each share costs over $100 to buy in the first place. And Missing that flight at the airport is a lot less frustrating when you miss it by an hour than when you miss it by 3 minutes. Because regret is tied to guilt, our initial reaction is to pull back and try to escape as if we could climb out of some kind of oubliette or something. We live in what I refer to as a reload, replay culture. Meaning, we have this idea that if we've done something and we don't like how things turned out, we can somehow Groundhog Day it, reload that part of our life right before making that decision, and choose something else until we get things right. But unfortunately, the tactics used to beat games like Monster Hunter and Ori and the Blind Forest don't really translate over to real-life games like Job Hunter and Kevin and the Angry Girlfriend. Catherine Schultz, a writer for the New Yorker magazine, identified 4 characteristics of regret. Number 1, denial. Make it stop. Oh. Number 2, bewilderment. What was I thinking? Number 3, punishment. I could just kick myself. And number 4, perseveration. This may be the most dangerous of the characteristics. To perseverate means to insistently repeat an action over and over and over again. In this case, we would repeat the first 3 characteristics of regret. You probably can already see how this cycle can be destructive and lead to depression and other things. So what then? Obviously, we don't want to cycle through this self-destructive behavior, but we also don't want any more Hannibal Lecters in society who don't feel anything for anything they do. Might I suggest 2 steps? First, when something happens we don't like, analyze it without coming to any specific decisions. If we were not involved in the cause of this at all, let it go. If you need to grieve and go through that process, do that. But then let it go. 2, if you find that, at least in part, you did contribute to the negative outcome, own it. If we really care about other people, we should feel guilty when we hurt them. If we really want to improve ourselves over time, we should want to analyze what we've done wrong so that we don't do it again. Once we own our creations, monster or masterpiece, we begin to better understand ourselves. We're able to develop wisdom and empathy. Regret can make us human. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I hope you liked this tip for happiness. If you did, please show your support by smashing a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you have specific things you've done or that you've learned that contribute to your own happiness, please share them in the comments and let me know. I would love to add your ideas to this series so that it's as much your series as it is mine. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. Until next time. Peace.